Boxing Truth here. Been watching some footage of both Andre Ward and Sullivan Barrera for the fight this Saturday. It's Tuesday night, so they just still have to do a press conference, the weigh-in, a couple stare downs. I don't really put much emphasis on those particular events. A lot of people put too much on like about the weigh-in, the face-off. You know, who looked the shooker of the two, who looked away first. Doesn't really matter. What really matters is what happens in the ring. So after watching some footage on both guys, I've come away to to the conclusion that I'm very convinced Andre Ward's gonna win this fight. And yes, Andre Ward is a big question mark going into this fight. Nobody knows how good he really is. Nobody knows how much he has left. All we could really go by is the footage from his Super 6 run and his most recent fight, Paul Smith. There's a good video out on YouTube. It pretty much shows the highlights of his entire career, from the very first fight of his professional career to I think the Evan Rodriguez fight. And then I watched that video and I saw his progression, and you can see in this video, it's not just only Ward; it's for a lot of fighters. But in the Ward case, you can see him developing in each and every fight. You see him at his peak in the Super 6 and the Froch fight. Also, the Evan Rodriguez fight, he looked pretty good. I mean, I thought he schooled Evan Rodriguez, but you can see him peak. You can see him developing after each and every fight, and then it stops after the Evan Rodriguez fight. So you have to do a separate watch, a viewing, when he does for his last fight against Paul Smith. And when you put on the footage for his last fight against Paul Smith, you see a big difference. He's definitely doesn't look the same in that fight. Especially early on in the fight against Paul Smith, his movement just wasn't fluid as I would have liked it to be. He wasn't as fast on his feet, and he looked a little lethargic in the early going of the Paul Smith fight. He definitely was rusty as hell in that fight. It took him a few rounds to get his rhythm, his movement, and more fluid to his movement. By the 7th and 8th rounds, he started looking like he was, getting his groove back, getting sharper. But he looked very different in the early rounds of that fight compared to the fight with Evan Rodriguez and the fight against Carl Froch. But I didn't see a shot fighter against Paul Smith. Granted, he was with a heavy bag, a hand-picked opponent, a guy he can, get some rounds in, get him sharper, get him ready. And Paul Smith just provided no resistance. He hardly punched back. He was handcuffed, had his guard up, but was constantly getting picked apart by the straight punches of Andre Ward. Hasn't been much footage about Andre Ward training. I've only been able to see some videos from Fight Hype. Ben Thompson was able to get access to Ward's training camp, and he was able to get some footage of him on the heavy bag, him shadow boxing. And I like Ward big in this fight, and it's simply because he's just so much technically better than Sullivan Barrera. Barrera is he's older than Ward, but he's young in terms of experience. A prospect really that's rated by the IBF as a number one contender, but he's levels below Sergey Kovalev, and he's levels below Andre Ward, in my opinion. I mean, I believe so. Ward is just, while he didn't look the same I would say he didn't look as fluid. I would have liked in the early going against Paul Smith. He's not a shot fighter simply because he's letting his hands go. He let his hands go a lot in the fight with Paul Smith. Yes, Paul Smith didn't throw much back, But the first sign of a shot fighter is when he's not throwing a lot of punches. And Ward didn't show that. He was constantly letting his hands go, was picking Paul Smith apart with jabs to the head, and body, going up and down with the jab, measuring Paul Smith with his jab, and throwing straight rights, and constantly keeping throwing shots up the middle. That's what's very effective about Andre Ward as a fighter. The guy is effective with his combinations, because he's always keeping his opponent off rhythm, off balance, because he doesn't just throw one punch. Sometimes he'll throw a jab, a double jab, measure with the jab, and then he'll shoot the right hand, and then he'll throw a 2-1, so a 1-2-1. So that basically means a jab, a straight right hand, and then another straight jab. Not many fighters use that combination, but it's very effective. And I know why Ward does it, because it keeps his opponents off balance. It's easy to slip a one jab, easy to slip a straight right. But when it's 3 straight punches coming at you back to back to back, and they're all straight and sharp, very difficult to get out of the way, very difficult to counter, very difficult to put yourself into position to fire your own offense, because you got 3 punches that coming at you in each sequence, and they're all straight, sharp punches. So that's what makes Ward very effective as a fighter. When you watch him fight, you see the skill set. I mean, he's very sharp and technical with his punches, and they're all tight and up the middle and straight laser like. And it's like, when you watch him land combinations on his opponents, it's like he's working a double end bag. Seriously, he's working a double end bag, and each punch is going at the same target. When he throws like the same amount of punches to the head, every one of those punches are hitting the same target. And then he'll throw uppercuts and jabs, but up the middle. And that's going to be the biggest difference of this fight with Sullivan Barrera. Barrera, he's strong, he's physically strong, he's a solid puncher, got some power, got a good right uppercut. He has a puncher's chance in this fight, but his punches are too wide. He's not fast enough on the trigger. When it comes to just one punch speed, Ward is quicker off the trigger. And he throws a lot of overhand wide rights. Those are not going to work against Andre. Hooks, wide hooks. Andre Ward's straight, sharp, up the middle type punches are gonna be the ones that hit Sullivan first. Sullivan will use his jab, but he's very lazy with it. He could not bring his jab back to his guard to protect his chin. His left hand is too low. He can be countered when he throws with a left hook, when he throws a straight right hand. He just keeps his hands too low. Too many flaws defensively. Andre Ward's gonna pick this kid apart up. He's gonna be a marksman in this fight. He's just gonna be a straight shooter. Just picking him apart with jabs up and down to the body and head. Keep him at a distance. Measure him with the jab. Every time Sullivan will try to throw a wide punch, Andre Ward's gonna pick him apart with straight laser-like punches up the middle. Andre Ward's going to make a statement. I pick him by late round stoppage. The Ward fanboys are going to go crazy, saying, I told y'all motherfuckers he's pound for pound the best in the world. But, calm down. If he beats and trashes Sullivan Barrera, he simply beat up a untested prospect. So that's the reality of the situation. You got to go by the box rack ranking of Sullivan Barrera. But decent opponent for Ward's first legit 175-pound debut. Looking forward to the fight. I expect a good performance out of Andre Ward. He's got the type of opponent that can make him look good. A guy that's going to throw wide punches, not technically as sound as he is, not as fast as he is. Andre Ward by late round stoppage. This is Boxing Truth. I'm out.